This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen driven, and it now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and our adults.
When independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspended his campaign last month and endorsed former President Donald Trump, there was always speculation about Kennedy getting a job involving health policy in a possible second Trump administration. Now, before you change that channel, bear with me, because there is a local Oklahoma tie to this story. In his speech at the end of August, Kennedy talked extensively about health policy, and he even says he spoke with Trump and his children about his views. Views Kennedy says he and Trump share when it comes to health policy, and not just on vaccines, but food and medicine. Since suspending his campaign, Kennedy and Trump have campaigned together. Kennedy has been added to Trump's transition team to help choose future cabinet members should Trump be reelected in November. But Kennedy openly said he himself was seeking a cabinet position or some kind of future within a Trump administration in exchange for his endorsement that he says could sway the race one way or the other. But here's where things get interesting and even local here in Green Country. RFK Jr., despite how he's been portrayed, focuses on food, especially how processed foods he says are killing us, something that is also a concern for Eastern Oklahoma Republican Josh Brecheen.
And these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans aren't biologically adapted to eat them. Hundreds of these chemicals are now banned in Europe, but ubiquitous in American processed foods. The second culprit is toxic chemicals in our food, our medicine, and our environment. Pesticides, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs, and toxic waste permeate every cell of our bodies.
When it comes to processed and unhealthy foods, Brecheen and Florida Republican U.S. Senator Marco Rubio have been working on a bill called Healthy SNAP Benefits, aka Healthy Food Stamps. A group of Republicans in Congress believe that if the government helps fund your food, it should be healthy and nutritious, fruits, vegetables, and meats. However, currently it is possible to buy some things like candies and snack cakes and sodas using food stamp money. Brecheen and Rubio have been working on what they call Healthy SNAP for months, and now they're trying to get it passed in this year's farm bill. You think we'll get Healthy SNAP before sine die?
I do not think that Healthy SNAP will become a reality until the Trump administration takes office. And I think with RFK, if he has a place with the enthusiasm, I think with the wisdom, and I think, look, there's a broad appeal. People understand this. They understand what the effect of high fructose corn syrup and, all that's baked into our goods, pun intended, and what that's leading to. I think he could be very enthusiastic to take what Marco Rubio, myself have introduced on this front. And I think if they were cheerleading it, I think that Congress could get enthusiastic about it.
As you heard him say, Brecheen believes even if Healthy SNAP makes it into the House's version of this year's farm bill, Democrats in the Biden administration will kill it. He believes only a second Trump administration understands the need for government to stop funding sugary food and drinks. I asked Brecheen earlier this month if what RFK Jr. has been saying on the campaign trail this year appeals to Republicans, and he says it does. And it does so much Kennedy is being considered for some sort of health cabinet role, whether it's a new Health and Human Services Secretary or even the head of the Food and Drug Administration. Healthy SNAP, Brecheen says, is something Kennedy understands, and on multiple occasions, on multiple health topics, he says something American lawmakers need to consider. What are you hearing about a position for RFK? FDA, Health and Human Services?
I think for his appeal, for the things that he's talking about, whether it's autism, where he says, in California, it's 1 in 22 kids right now you can find that are dealing with autism compared to, a couple of decades ago, it was 1 in 10,000. People are smart. They know that there has to be something to what this man's talking about. And so I think what you mentioned, either one of those could be a placement for him because of the response. People, you just talk to the average person. They don't have to be Democrat or Republican. They can be among both. And they're like, there's some things this guy's talking about that we see there's great validity in it.
Keep in mind, we have had Kennedy on this very program just a few months ago, and he said health issues was one of his top 3 reasons he was running. Should he either be in charge as president or within a second Trump administration, there will be pushes to make hard changes in our health care and our food in many areas.
We have the sickest people, the sickest population in the world. We have greater chronic disease than anybody, and that's really what was killing people during COVID. CDC said the average American who died during COVID had 3.8 chronic disease. So they had obesity, they had diabetes, they had asthma, and one other thing. Why does no other country have the kind of chronic disease that we do? Well, we know why that is, because we're mass poisoning our population with all of these. We have 1,000 ingredients in our foods that are illegal in other countries.
On the other side of this, obviously, Democrats have written off RFK's policies as conspiracy theorists and even dangerous, and they do point to some things that have happened in the past. Kennedy tried repeatedly to have a conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris last month about a possible cabinet post in exchange for his endorsement over Trump. Kennedy says the campaign never even returned his messages, and Democrats will point to Kennedy's past, at times scandalous and controversial, as something they say you don't want in government at all, regardless of his views. But the key here is that when Kennedy speaks, more and more Republicans are now listening. Even if you disagree with everything you've heard from Kennedy tonight, Kennedy is being considered for a possible big job in the federal government. Kennedy also remains on the ballot in Oklahoma. He doesn't believe staying on it in Oklahoma will impact the outcome of the election. But this is definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if Trump wins a second term in November.